guys, it's Kelly Taylor here, and I am back with another card for Trinity Stamps. And today, since we are letting summer go, which makes me very sad, I am moving on to a fall card. I'm using Harvest Blessings. I am using the A2 size Foundations oval stencil, and then I am also using the Simply Sentiments Thankful. I love a framed image, okay? Not everybody does, but I do. I think it gives a very clean look. So for these little ovals, I wanted to do a little watercolor background, but I wanted it to be contained within my oval. So I wanted to show you that if you don't want to do the stenciling, if you just wanted to freehand paint it, you could just trace the oval with your little pencil and then do your watercoloring over top. I'm going to ink blend mine and then watercolor it because that just seemed easier to me. So I picked out some tealy blue colors, and then I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a gradient from the top to the bottom. And for the first color, which is Salvage Patina, I'm going to fill in the whole circle. I am working on watercolor paper. I like the Canson Monteval watercolor paper, but as long as it's watercolor paper, you can use whatever you got. You just regular cardstock isn't meant to hold up to water. And then I told you guys that I loved these little blending buddies and that I was gonna get some, and my box just arrived, and I'm so excited because I did purchase so many more. In crafting, when you find something that you love, you just got to go with it. So, and I like having, you don't have to have one for every color or more than one for each color family, but I like having that. And so I did buy a couple of more for each color family. That's why you see me with 2 teals up there. But anyway, so darker at the bottom, lighter at the top, and then I'm just going to blend that out. Because watercolor paper is meant to kind of resist that moisture, your ink blending is much easier because it sits on top. So I'm going to go in now that all my ink blending is done. I'm just using some clean water. You saw me just pour it out of my little water bottle there. And I'm just going to go in with this is a number 8 round brush, but again, use whatever you got. And then I'm just going to add some water. This is just going to create some texture in the background, move that pigment around to give it that watercolor look that I'm going for. I am being very careful around the edges because, this stencil is being held in place by my sticky mat. So it's not, there's no edge. Do you know what I'm saying? The edge isn't stuck down. So I'm just being super careful. There is one part in the left-hand side where I could tell that it had seeped under my stencil. And so now that I'm done, everything else came out super clean. It was really easy. That one little spot, which isn't a huge deal, I'm just going to go in and blot it with a baby wipe. Most distress ink colors will lift pretty cleanly. And the same with real actual watercolors. If you catch them early before they dry, you can lift them. But I am going to be doing some spatters and things like that in the background. So I'm not overly worried about it. I did just pick 2 of the colors. I picked Uncharted Mariner and Peacock Feathers, and I'm just going to splatter those while it is still wet. And for this, I went down to a number 2 round brush because I just find that with the 8, it's just the splatters are a little bit too big. I'm not trying to get a crazy messy background, just a couple of splatters. And if you aren't into splatters at all, skip this part. Totally fine. But anyway, going back to the framed image, if you've been a follower of mine for a long time, you know that this is true. I love something that is framed in. I just think it creates such a clean focal point for your card. And then I am going to go in again. This is still wet. This is Gold Perfect Pearls, and I am just splattering them on because I'm putting it on the background while it is still wet. It's kind of going to bloom out into the water and make the gold really soft. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry. We're going to now work on our next piece. I chose the Harvest Blessings because I love how it's got this little curve in it. And I thought that it would look great to finish off my framed focal point. But if you don't have this particular stamp, or you don't have a stamp that has that round edge, you can build this yourself. So in this set in particular, it has this kind of swag, this pumpkin swag with the little flowers. It's so pretty. But then there's also like a pumpkin that you could use to do like a little pumpkin frame, or Trinity has another set. It's called, I'm never going to say this right. It's gorgeous. It's gourds, guys. It's pumpkins and squashes and stuff. It's super cute. So that would be a great one to kind of like build out a frame with. You can do like pretty much any images. You just want to adhere them kind of in like a semicircle. And I chose to put mine on the bottom this time, but you could absolutely put them on the top. You could do the top and the bottom to build kind of like a half wreath to, accent your frame. It's just a really easy, like without having to think too much about your design, adding in a frame can just bring everything together without too much forethought, which I always kind of appreciate. So now we're on to the Copic coloring. This is pretty, this is the only thing we're coloring. So this is kind of a short video for me, honestly. But so I just picked some yellow greens. You can pick whatever green strike your fancy. I knew I was doing like the tealish blue color, and that is a kind of a complement to an orange or a red orange. So I thought that a lime green would be nice, because it is equal distance away from each other on the color wheel. So conversely, I could have gone the other way and done like a red violet, like a purpley pink, and that would have looked nice as well. But I have leaves and I'm not going to color my leaves purpley pink. So yellow green it was. Plus I like a lime green, like a neon green. But you could do any variation of green and that would be fine. These are some very large leaves, which is great. It makes it for much easy coloring. So the only thing that I would say here is just make sure you pay attention to the way that the lines are drawn, because these are, how would you describe them? Because these are like fluffier leaves. There's a lot of rounded lines. And so just make sure when you're putting down your shading, you're following the lines that are drawn in there. If you try to go a different direction than the lines that are drawn in there, it will be noticeable in your coloring. If you're like, Kelly, I don't have time to follow lines and all that jazz, which I totally get, then I would just do one flat color. That would be my suggestion. So now we have moved on to the pumpkin. The pumpkin is going to be darker in the back because it's behind. And then each segment, I am just adding a bit of darkness to either the left or the right of it. If it's on the left side of the pumpkin, then I'm adding the darkness to the left. If it's the right side of the pumpkin, I'm adding the darkness to the right. And pumpkins are some of the easiest coloring, you guys. It's so easy. You literally just do lines of color. Just take your colors and go one right over the other. The only exception to that is the centerpiece. And for that, I just kind of do some feathering strokes up and down and leave the lighter area in the middle. That lighter area in the middle will help give it a more round appearance. But pumpkins are a great practice piece, especially if you're just getting into coloring. And this is true for any medium. Like you can use these techniques for any medium. I could have done my flowers that red violet color we were talking about, and that would have been really pretty, but I was trying to keep this super clean. So I just decided to do them orange. And again, I'm just following the lines that are put there in the drawing. So they have a lot of shading in the centers, and then where the petals are meeting in the center of the flower, I'm adding some shading there as well. And then I'm leaving just the littlest, tiniest bit on the edge as my highlight, and that is that yellow color. I feel like I'm trying to pack a lot in here because normally, I have like 30 minutes to chat your ear off. But this card came together super quick, which really is just a testament to how, like, the frames, how easy they are to make your card come together, because it didn't take me long at all. So now I want my frame to be a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to put my stencil back in place, and then I'm going to take a fine liner and I'm just going to butt it up right against the stencil and give it a black outline. Now you saw me starting at the bottom. The reason I'm starting at the bottom is because you're more likely to have an error in the where you start or where you finish. So I'm starting where I know nobody's going to see it in case I do have like a little slip of the pen. And then here I was trying to decide, do I want the frame to be on the outside or on the inside? Ultimately, I ended up deciding that I wanted the frame to be on the outside. So I just selected the next largest stencil size. I put that in place, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the bottom, and then I'm going to take it all the way around, and this is going to create that framed look. Now, you could do both. You can put as many lines in here as you would like. You could color that frame and make it really a part of the focal point. I wanted the pumpkins and the leaves to shine, so I just left it as an outline, but you definitely could add more to that to really highlight the frame. For my sentiment, I chose the script thankful, and then the other portion of it says today and every day, and I'm stamping this down on black cardstock in gold pigment ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss it with gold embossing powder because I have that gold in the background, and I know that I'm going to do more gold spatter. You'll see that here in a second. The gold just made sense to me, but a white would be nice here too, just a nice neutral, either or. I just like to tie in my black stamping, and then the black frame. I just like everything to kind of tie together when I'm building out a design. The thankful itself has a die. The sub-sentiment does not, but that's no big deal. They're all the same size. It's super easy to just trim it into a label. So I'm going to line up my dies for my thankful and then also for the pumpkin and cut those out. Really easy. And I love how it cuts out like the little, and because it's got all these cute little curly cues. I don't know. It just it reminds me of Cinderella. It just looks like magic. So pretty quickly I realized that I wanted a little bit of I wanted to be able to mat it. So I'm trimming this down. My oval still is more toward the top. My oval is not centered, but I can't have my oval centered because my pumpkin takes up so much room at the bottom. I have to make it more towards the top. I promise you by the time we get done, the card will be balanced, but because of the background, and the size of the pumpkins and leaves, I had to scoot it up toward the top. So now I just adhered this down. And then after looking at it, I decided that I wanted these to have a little bit of height. So I just cut 2 more of the die cuts for the pumpkin and for the thankful. And then I'm just going to layer these up. So ultimately, I'm going to have 3 layers. And then that will go down. It will lift up my image and just give it a little bit more interest. I was really kind of on the fence in putting the card together because I was like, this oval kind of looks a little bit like the ocean, and that's totally not the vibe I'm going for. I was going for more like a blue sky vibe. But I think in the end it comes out okay. I just sometimes, just got to trust the process. Know what I'm saying? So I stacked up those thankfuls, and then for my little label, I'm going to pop this up on some foam tape. This would look really cute. Like we just, in the summer, did a bunch of ocean releases. There was like a little mermaid and stuff. This little frame would look adorable with that. It would be great for an ocean. That's just not how I'm using it today. So now I'm adhering this down to the bottom, and again, see how it balances out the top, and you wouldn't even know that the oval is closer to the top than it is to the bottom. And then I'm going to put my little sentiments on. Again, this label is popped up, and then the thankful has the multiple layers of cardstock. I told you it reminded me of Cinderella. Like, it just looks like a little bit of magic, which I was totally feeling that. So I decided to go back in with, now that everything is dry, and do some more kind of gold splatters. And now since we're doing it because it's dry, it's not going to spread out. It's just going to be however it lands. And then in order to connect everything and kind of fill in these spaces, I am going to use some of these gemstones. These are the milk glass from Trinity Stamps, and these are one of my favorites just because they're not just plain white. Like, they catch the light. They are a little bit rainbow-ish. I really like them. I'm a big fan. So I just use those to kind of fill in that gap in between the sentiment and the image. And then I'm going to add some shimmers. Of course, you know how I roll with the shimmers, with the pumpkins and the flowers. And then the last thing I'm going to do just to add like a little bit more of that magic feel, I'm going to go in and add some white highlights to my images. I'm going to add some dots to the flowers, but then I'm also going to add some dots toward the bottom of the background and just kind of fill those in, almost like this like magic is kind of floating up off of the pumpkin, which I thought was really, really cute and just something, something different. And then that's really all I did. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I am excited to see if you try to use, create your own frame. I would highly recommend it. And then that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time. I always appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next video. Bye.